Well, hello everyone, and welcome to an interview today on the Tolkien Guide YouTube channel with Tom Racine, who's bringing out a book which is coming out in the UK in about a week's time. I think next month in the US, called
next month in the
Doomed
US.
to Die, an A to Z of death in Tolkien. I don't know how you come up with so many people dying in Tolkien. Anyway, there you go.
That never happens.
It's a smallish book, and the idea is that it's got some great illustrations in it. It has a section in the back that tells you about each of the pictures. Though, to be honest, I have shown it to some Tolkien people, and they knew all of them anyway, so that's quite good. But that's for someone who's probably not that used to Tolkien. So, Tom, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about about the book?
Certainly. My name is Tom Racine. I'm a artist, cartoonist, video guy in San Diego, California. I've been involved in graphic design or video my entire life. I got an English degree back in the 1980s in the mists of time, which I'm finally using in this book. We can talk about it. It's exciting. I think they're finally excited that I'm going to use my English degree for the first time. But yeah, I work with Lincoln Purse of Big Nate. I'm his colorist, and I do a lot of videos for science education, and I also do a lot of illustration and cartooning.
So basically, how did this book come about?
Where did the idea come from, Tom?
Where did the idea come from?
Well, it's a 1 in a million shot, quite honestly. And what it started with Inktober last year, 2024. I always forget the name of the artist, but years ago now, 2009, 2010, I forget exactly when he started it. It was an online thing where basically it was to encourage artists to explore art. He himself was like a digital artist, I think, but also loved traditional art. And so it was basically kind of a, hey, let's all draw with ink for a little while. And I glommed onto that early on. It was a lot of fun. I did it every year. Some years all 31 days, some years just every now and then. It was just kind of an experience to do. And then for a few years, probably around the pandemic, I'd sort of stopped drawing. I'd kind of given up on that aspect of my career. I've been doing a lot of video and all that kind of stuff, and drawing just had kind of lost its joy for me. But then in 2024, I had started playing with a comic I was doing about the Blue Wizards, just for fun, just for myself. And I started getting involved in the online Tolkien fandom, which I really hadn't before. And I was kind of just blown away by the depth of it. All these, I feel the old guy in the room now. I see all these younger people dropping these amazing lore videos about the Silmarillion. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. It was so cool to start getting back into that. And then Inktober came around, and I have two kids, 17 and 19, and they loved it when I did it. And they asked me if I was going to do it this year. And I was like, yeah, maybe I will. And I said, well, let me do some Tolkien stuff. And traditionally, for almost, I think, 6 or 7 years in a row, I had always done the first day was an homage to Edward Gorey, because I'm huge influence, love his artwork as an ink guy, and I love his sense of humor, and I love his just weirdness. And so I always did an homage. I came up with a Gashly Crumb tiny of my own, like E is for Edward, who died looking at his phone. He's about to fall into an open pit as he's looking at his phone, and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. So this year I said, well, what do I do for the first day? I'm going to do an Edward Gorey. And immediately, because I'd been getting more involved with the Tolkien stuff again, A is for Arwen, done in by Sorrow. And the image from the movies, which I love, of her standing at the foot of the sarcophagus and her black veils showing, it's just such a beautiful cinematic moment. It just immediately popped in my mind. I was like, oh, that'd be great. And then right after was Sorrow looked like Arrow. And I went, B is for Boromir, shot by many arrows. And suddenly I went, I think there's something here. And so I then went online, and I pulled up a bunch of Tolkien character lists and ABCs, and I was like, wow, I could do this. And I read the whole thing in about an hour and a half. It just flew right out. And so at that point, it became kind of a quest. It was like, I really want to do this as an artist. I want to take the time to, I even looked up the size of Gorey's originals were 4x3. He worked very small. And I was like, well, this will be fun. I'm going to take this on as an art challenge. Hadn't done it for years. And suddenly I was reinvigorated. It was exciting again to draw. And so I wrote the whole thing. And then I started in September because I really wanted them to be detailed. I knew that if I tried to do it in October every day, I'd never keep up. So I started doing them, and I got about halfway through by the time October started. And I put them up, and I figured my Tolkien friends would go, oh, it's kind of cool, and I'd get a few likes. I'd get 20, 30 likes or something, and I'd be really happy because that's the only reason I was doing it was just for me. But it started growing fairly quickly. And then one night, I'm not a social media guy. I love being on social media, but I don't know how to work it. There are people who always have all these algorithms and stuff, whatever. But one night around the letter J, I thought, I should do a reel, just a slideshow with a little bit of music or something like that. And I put it up and I went to bed, doom scrolling or whatever. And that was it. I figured, this would be fun. Next morning I woke up and it had like 1,000 views. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. That's pretty awesome. Then that afternoon it was like 5,000 views. And that's great. And I just went about my day. And then the next morning it was like 25,000 views. And then that evening it was like 60,000 views. And that one eventually got almost 400,000 views. And so suddenly it's a viral thing. I'm like, what the heck is this? And it was really cool.
And that was that reel that you put. It was just the one reel that you put up on
the one reel. And so suddenly it started getting bigger. And then I put up a second reel around the letter M, and that one hit 500,000 views. And now I'm onto something. I mean, I've done this a long time in my life. I know when something works and when something doesn't work. You pitch stuff, you throw stuff at the wall, and some stuff sticks and some stuff doesn't. But this was legitimately viral. So I was asking some of my friends who are published, and I have a lot of cartoonists and graphic novelist friends, and they were like, yeah, this is something. So by the end of the month, I decided to research, could it be a book? And I knew that obviously it was an homage to Gory, so I didn't necessarily have to worry about copyright or anything for Gory, but I did have to worry about Tolkien. I couldn't just do this on my own. And I would never do that anyway. So I looked online to figure out, well, who publishes the Tolkien books? And now in the Tolkien estate, there's one place. It's HarperCollins UK. They do everything having to do with Tolkien officially. And I said, well, I'll send them something. I have a friend who is published through HarperCollins, and she got the name of some editors to send this to, as opposed to like info@HarperCollins. I knew it would get lost. So I sent this very pathetic email like, hey man, I did a thing. You like this thing? And I expected to hear nothing at that point. But about 2 weeks later, I get an email from a gentleman by the name of David Braun, and he's the publisher of estates for Tolkien and Agatha Christie. So he's like the one guy on the planet that could do this, and it actually got to him. And I'm going to read to you because it's one of my favorite things. I get this. This is the most emotional roller coaster of an email I've ever received. So I get this email. I open it up in the morning, and it says, as the publisher of Tolkien's books, I looked up your Ghastly Chrome artwork on Instagram. After almost 30 years on this job, it is very rare to encounter something quite as fresh as this. It is at once anarchic and clearly in love with its source material, and I particularly respect the fact that publishing it as a book has come as an afterthought. And who doesn't love Edward Gorey? And I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, he likes this. The publisher of the HarperCollins stuff likes this. And then the next sentence was, at first sight, it is completely unpublishable. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that ends that. So I had the greatest. Exactly. I had the highest high and the lowest low. But then right after, he basically said he was going to meet with the Tolkien people. This was the kind of book he wanted to publish. He'd been trying for years to get them to expand a little bit and try different things. And he liked the literary combination of Gorey and Tolkien. And so it just kind of snowballed from there. It was really championed by him. He took it to the estate. We went back and forth with the estate on a few things, tightened up the poem. And then suddenly they said it was a go, and I couldn't believe it. It blew me away. And then now we're here in less than a year. And I know publishing is very, very slow. So for me, this has been a long time coming. It's been crazy, but it's been lightning fast because it only happened a year ago. It only started a year ago.
That really is lightning speed for publishing. Yeah. Tom, so you talked about how you put the reel up and it immediately resonated with people. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it went viral so quickly like that? Is it the death aspect? Is it just the illustrations themselves?
I think it's one of those things. Yeah, I think. I mean, Tolkien people are famous for they love everything about it, and they love all the amazing artwork that's out there. I feel as people are complimenting my artwork, and I feel immediately imposter syndrome because I see people like Ted Naismith and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, that's Tolkien art. But I think people really just like the simplicity of it. I think they like the literary tie-in with Gorey, even if some people didn't know it was Gorey, and so they've discovered that since then. Yeah. And I think that it is there's so much death in Tolkien. And in fact, right after I started it, I came across that quote that Tolkien himself said, that stories human stories are always about one thing: death, the inevitability of death. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, Tolkien is telling me to write this book. So,
He is.
He's literally telling me. So I feel that is definitely a tie-in. People, the lives from the very beginning to the very end of so many characters' lives are spelled out in the Tolkien lore. And I think that people really respond to that part.
Were there any characters that it was a struggle maybe to leave them out or to include? Did you have anything like that?
Well, first of all, when you get to the letter F, there are like 17 million choices.
Yes, that's one of the ones. That's one of the ones I was thinking of. Yeah,
that one got a little weird because
there is an obvious one though, isn't there? Which is Fëanor, which is the one that I think you did.
It is.
Yes, there's an obvious one. Yes.
Yeah. And what's funny, what I love about Fëanor is that when I did the original one, I played it off almost as a joke because the original Inktober is he was killed by Gothmog. And it's this picture, it's an obscure reference, but there is an old indie animation thing that's like literally 10 seconds long called Bambi versus Godzilla, where it's a picture of Bambi and he's eating, and all of a sudden Godzilla's foot comes down and smashes him. And so I drew this giant Balrog foot coming down and Fëanor's looking up. But then when it became a book and I was redrawing everything, I did change the aspect ratio. I really wanted to take more time on it. I read up on a lot of this stuff because the first time around I kind of went from memory and just clicking around. But then I said, okay, I need to take this seriously. And Fëanor's death is so cool because it's just because he gets mortally wounded and they drag him from the fight, and then he looks out at Angband and he curses them, and then he bursts into flame from his, and it's just like, and I believe even in the words is like, and there has been no death like this since, or something.
Correct.
So it's just this amazing moment. So I redrew it to be much more dramatic. He's just like turning into dust and flame, and it was so cool. That one was a lot of fun to do. Go ahead.
Well, one of the questions, obviously, I assume that you're aware of because looking at the book, I'm reminded of the Hobbit, my favourite book, and of course, Tolkien's illustrations are somewhat similar to this in the original Hobbit.
That's true. Andrew gets a good point.
He was very keen on this sort of drawing style. Do you find it a nice style to draw in, or do you find it difficult to do? Just with pen and ink.
It's for me, it's been my whole life. I wanted to be a comic book artist all my life, and studied a lot of that stuff early on. And I'm a cartoonist by nature. I've pitched many cartoons. I work with Big Nate, Lincoln Purse's Big Nate. And so pen and ink has always been sort of my thing. And that's why I've always kind of drifted towards those things like Edward Gorey, and then other cartoonists with very dark senses of humor like Charles Addams or Gay and Wilson. And, that kind of just line work. And I've been putting stuff up on Inktober this year, sort of a history thing of like Sidney Paget from the Sherlock Holmes stuff and all of those things, the E.H. Shepard from A.A. Milne's work. That stuff really influenced me as a kid, and Tolkien's work as well. So, but this is just sort of, I'm not trying to, in this particular case, I'm just doing whatever comes to my mind. I'm not trying to ape anything. I certainly wasn't trying to mimic Gorey. That would be, a big mistake. Gorey-esque and his cross-hatching and the detail, but not in the way he does things. But I have a copy of Amphigory here at all times to look at his style, his cross-hatching, how he shows the change in planes and light and dark and things like that. I've definitely tried to get some of that into my work. But yeah, I think that because of Professor's early work, and I think that's what we associate with a lot of this stuff. I think that's another reason maybe people respond to this style of art.
Well, the trolls, for instance, that could fit quite easily into here. If you have, you could have that one in as T, because it would fit in very. You wouldn't really notice that it changed the style, which is very clever. Which is why I like it. I think. People are going to look at this and think, well, it is Tolkien-esque in terms of the drawing style as well as the. It's all about Tolkien.
Incredibly flattering.
So Tom, you mentioned having to redraw some of the originals whenever the book was finally commissioned. Did you have a complete set when or did you have to? Oh,
I completely redrew them all. They're all on. Originally, they were on little pieces of 4x3 board, but now they're on 9x12. But they're still 4 inches by 4 inches. That was the size I was going to work in, because David right away said he wanted it to be square because it fit the size of the book he was looking for. So you change from slightly more rectangular to square, each one has to change. There's a little bit of change in layout, how you approach it. And I really, since it was going to be a book, I really wanted to just totally get back into it. And I just redrew them all. Basically, most of them are the same, but I was able to tweak some of them along the way. Like you're saying the hard one to write was, for me, Ungoliant was really hard to get down, because my original Inktober is terrible. It's like by that time, but the letter U, I was sort of against the deadline, and I'm trying to draw this giant spider and get a sense of scale. And
so you rushed it a bit.
Yeah, it just didn't. Spider's not my wheelhouse. Let's put it that way. So the one that came out was kind of like, eh. And then when I did this one, I kind of was like, oh, well, how am I going to do Ungoliant? And I did probably 30 sketches of Ungoliant for this one to try to get something, a sense of scale, eating herself, ripping herself to shreds. I mean, it was a cool idea, but I really struggled with that one. That one was tough.
So how long did it take to redraw all of them?
Each one takes anywhere between 5 to 8 hours.
Okay.
But I was lucky to have kind of an opening in my schedule. And so I just churned them out because he wanted the book for this year. There were several reasons he felt, for marketing reasons, he wanted it out for the holiday season. This year is also the 100th anniversary of Edward Gorey, I believe. They're doing his centenary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so there were certain reasons he really wanted it, and I was like, I can do it. It's not a problem. So I worked hard, but each one did take I was able to do maybe 1 or 2 a day for a while, and I just totally cranked on them. And it's nice because I think when you stay in that groove as an artist, it's easier than coming back to things. Things just kind of flew out of me really nicely.
I'm not going to spoil this for people, but I think my favourite one is the letter J, and I think people will find out why when they actually.
That is a good one, Andrew. Yeah, that is a good one.
The J is a very nice drawing, and
thank you.
I think it's very well deserved that one's in there.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, do you have a favorite, Tom, of all of them?
A favorite, that's I enjoyed drawing Gollum because it's a great moment as he's plunging into the lava just a moment before. That was something I really tried to capture as much as I could, because one of my favorite things about the Gashly Crumb Tinies is that it doesn't show the death most of the time. It shows the moment before the death. So you read the caption, something terrible is about to happen to this character, but you're not seeing it. You're just about to see it. Some of them do die on screen. I think K is for Katie with an axe. I think she's got the axe in her already. But there's a lot of them that are just like, it sets the moment up. And Gollum was one of those, sort of like, he's not dead yet, but what's about to happen.
He's not going to get away from that.
It's not going to go well for him.
No escape from that one.
And the J one, I know you said you don't want to spoil, but I do think that what was interesting about that is originally, here's my favorite piece of trivia about all of this. There are no characters in all of Tolkien with the letter J. Which really surprised me, because I had this whole list and I'm like, okay, A, B, C, D, J. Why are there no J's? I was like, it seemed like that was not that weird a letter, J. So originally I punted and I was like, well, J is for jerky spiders killed by Bilbo's sting. All right, jerky.
I mean, that's
spiders.
not bad. That's not bad.
It was an excuse to draw giant spiders.
It's not as good as what you picked.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm glad you changed it though.
Yeah, because at the very end, literally the day before J was to come out, I thought to myself, what did I get?
Oh, spoilers, Tom. Spoilers.
I'm spoiling. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine spoiling it. But it's really, actually, I won't spoil it anymore, but it's really nice the way you done it as well.
I was very happy with that one.
It's very good.
So I know obviously Goring's a big influence on the style of the book and the style of the artwork. I know you mentioned Andrew brought up Tolkien's artwork in The Hobbit. I think you brought up some Peter Jackson imagery. Any other sort of inspiration for how the drawings turned out?
A lot of it is just, it's just, I've been doing this a long time. And so I just sort of trusted my instincts. And I think I've done a lot of film work in my life and a lot of theater work in my life. And so there was a lot of, I would just look at the letter and just try to, just whatever image came to mind. And then I would play with the camera angles and I would try to make it as dramatic as I could. Because actually that was interesting. As I study, you looking at Gorey's work, one of the things I noticed as an artist is that his camera is always the same. It's on a tripod at about eye level. He doesn't really vary his camera shots. He doesn't do high angles. He doesn't do low angles. Everything is kind of like right here. And I think that that's kind of just the way his work was done. And it was that's why it's got that feel, that weird Victorian sort of feel. Everything's very, here it is, you know? And so, but for me, it was definitely more like, okay, how can I show this scene a little bit more dramatically, or what can I do with the camera angle? I have Theodred and I have the camera looking straight down as he's being pushed into his grave. Cause it just was, that's the image that came to my head. So a lot of, I feel as an artist, my greatest influences are probably more like comic books and movies, cinematography, that kind of thing, trying to get the most bang out of the individual drawing.
Are there any characters in there that you would like to have put in, but you couldn't really come up with a means of adding them?
Well, I think it was some of it, as you're juggling them all, there were obviously multiple choices on some of them, but the rhyming couplet is A, A, B, B, C, C, D, D. So you had to sort of, if let me look at the book, because there was like with, with sorrow and arrows kind of came to mind. And then it was Celebrimbor hung out to dry. Well, what rhymes with that? And then we go into Denethor, who elected to fry, because you have to sort of work those things together. So I would sometimes abandon one character because I just couldn't figure out a rhyme for it. And it was I had a whole spreadsheet of like, these are all the characters with the letter N, and then I just would sort of like figure out, well, how do I work this into the poem?
So how much influence did you have over the way the actual physical book looked, like the cover and what image was chosen for the cover?
That's, that part is, luckily I had some experience with this. I have a lot of author friends. It's amazing how much sway you have and how much sway you don't have as an author with a publisher. Basically David was like, he sent it to his graphics people and they said, we're going to mock up a cover. I'm like, great, because I have done a zillion covers in my life, but I'm like, this is not my area of expertise. I'm not going to be a diva. I'm like, this is my first book. If I get a book made, I'm going to be the happiest person on the planet, because I've been trying for years and here it is. So I'm not going to make any waves, but he sent something back immediately and was great. And then I made a few suggestions, like adding the gold foil, and we chose the image. I wanted the Arwen image on the front, so he was fine with that. He did a lot of this. I mean, honestly, David, again, there's no book without David. There's one of my favorite little Easter eggs is at the very top there are a bunch of Elvish runes that say the gift of Iluvatar, which is a total nerdy, geeky Easter egg that David loved and wanted on the cover. And I'm like, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? Like, so my experience with the people at HarperCollins UK has just been so good. I mean, just all the editors I've worked with, they never insisted on something. It was more like, what do you think about this? And we'd go back and forth, and David punched up the poem initially to make it more gory-esque, and then I played with it and we went back and forth and stuff like that. But it's been such a wonderfully collaborative process. But the book cover, I didn't have a ton to say in, but I loved what they did. So, it was sort of like,
Yeah, I think it's a great cover. I think how it turned out, just like what you're saying, Tom. I think it turned out really well. So we are a website that's predominantly for, we do other things, but we're predominantly, a collector's website. What the original artwork for the book, you're going to hold on to that? What are your plans for that?
I really don't know. That's people have been asking. I've had several people online, do you do prints? I'm like, I do now. So, it's sort of like, I have to figure that out. I mean, I have all the originals in a box right over there. You can see it right there. And I'm working on book 2, which hasn't been officially announced, but I did announce it at Oxenmoot. So I'm allowed to talk about it because I'm doing a Shakespeare book. Because I'm a huge Shakespeare fan. And that was when this book came in. One of the things I know about publishing, it was like, pitch as much as you can once you get your foot in the door. And I was like, well, initially the idea was like, well, Shakespeare. And I pitched an Edgar Allan Poe one. And it was sort of like, here, let's keep going, make it a series. And David was extremely responsive to that. And so I had written up the Shakespeare one and sent it off, and he showed it to the people there and they loved it. So I've got all this artwork now, but I really don't know. I mean, I would like to maybe start selling prints. I'd maybe like to start doing originals for people. This has all happened so quickly. I haven't really had time to process that aspect of things.
Well, you could very well get asked to do commissions as well now.
Yeah, I mean, when they asked me to put the art up at Oxenmoot, I couldn't believe it. That was that blew me away. I was like,
So-
wait, you want my artwork? You know, it's very strange.
So if people want, if people want to commission artwork from you, how can they contact you?
Well, probably the best way is through Instagram, which is Tom _ Racine_art. So Tom Racine art.
Okay.
And
we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah,
that'd be great. Yeah. And so feel free to DM me there. And I've got to get serious about it. I have a website for my voiceover work. I do some voice acting and things like that, and also my video work. So I may add pages there for people to come, but I have to figure all that out. I mean, that's the book hasn't come out yet. So I'm still in that mode of like, if they sell 10, I'll be happy. So I don't know. Is it going to do really well? I'm getting really nice reports from people. I just reposted on Instagram for Inktober. They wanted me, the publisher's like, you should definitely do some Inktober stuff. I'm like, yeah, of course I'll repost stuff. And I've been doing things, but I reposted the first 4, and I just checked the other, about an hour ago. It's got over 500,000 views. And I'm like,
wow,
okay, are these people going to buy a book? It'd be great, you know? so I don't know. Is it going to be popular? I'm going to sell 10? I don't know. So I'll figure all that out soon, I hope.
Well, anyway, I think we're coming to the end of the interview. It's been absolutely fantastic to see you. Obviously, I've had this book for about a month now, and I've showed it to my local Tolkien Society Smile, and they all really liked it.
Oh.
So I think anyone who likes Tolkien, and one of the things that you can think about this book for is if you want to say, buy a Christmas gift for someone who likes Tolkien, we could buy this one because they won't have it already, and it's just come out, and I think people will love it as a present. So.
And I'm very happy with the appendices for people who may know the movies, or they may have seen something but they don't really know the books. This is sort of like, go read the books. Here's where it's from. This is what really happened. And I think I'm very happy about that part. I'm hoping that as a gift book, it might be for the casual Tolkien fan to lead them down to reading the great works. So.
Well, that's what we really want.
Yeah, we hope so. Yeah,
me too.
So thank you again, and it's been great talking to you, and thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.